Warm welcome to you all, and I'm delighted to see so many people, military, ex-military and civilian, here today to help us commemorate two very distinguished sons of Keith. There are very few, if any, towns the size of Keith which can claim to be the birthplace of two Victoria Cross winners. So that makes this an event more special and an even more auspicious occasion. We're gathered here to honour John Ripley, who was awarded the Victoria Cross in the First World War, and George Sellar, who was awarded the Victoria Cross in 1879 during what is known as the Second Anglo-Afghan War.
We are here to commemorate the memories of both John Ripley and George Sellar, both men of Keith, both men who won the Victoria Crosses in the service of King, or in the case of George, Queen and country. But I'm here and I would like to tell you a little bit about John, if you'll indulge me. Something of his early life in Keith, a little about his later life in Fife, and also a little about the character of the man. Then I'll hand over to General Sir Alistair Irwin, who will describe the events surrounding the action that led to John's VC. John was born in the family home here on Land Street. It was the 30th of August 1867. His parents were Joseph Ripley, a labourer in the town, and Margaret Castles, herself descended from a long line of residents of both Keith and nearby Fordyce. Indeed, Joseph and Margaret, along with many of John's relatives, are buried here in unmarked pauper's plots, down in the graveyard by the old brig. John had three brothers, Joseph Ripley, James Castles Ripley, and William Stuart Ripley. William was my own great-grandfather. He also had five sisters, Isabella, Margaret, Jessie Fordyce, Mary and Alice, and all were born over a period of 25 years, with John slap bang in the middle. So he would have been surrounded by siblings, young and old, during his childhood years. John went to Keith Primary and then on to the grammar school, but like many at the time, left early to take up work to help keep the family. And by 1881, he, his brothers and sisters, and his parents had moved to Cross Street in Keith, and John, who was only 14 at the time, was employed as a wool spinner at Kinnock's, based at the Isla Bank Mill here in Keith.
Events of the 9th of May 1915, exactly 100 years ago today, that earned John Ripley a permanent place in the history of Keith, of his regiment, the Black Watch, of the army, and indeed of the nation. I make this point about the ordinariness of his life because so very often it is ordinary people like him, like you, like me, who when the chips are down are capable, we hope, of doing extraordinary things. This is what happened. On the day in question, an attack was launched by the British First Army against the German line in the area of Ober's Ridge in support of a major French assault on Vimy Ridge, 9 miles to the south. The German positions were strongly held. The preparatory British bombardment began at 5 in the morning and lasted for 40 minutes. It was inadequate, with many shells failing to explode or falling short having been fired from overused guns with worn-out barrels. They could not break through the barely damaged fences. When the artillery smoke cleared, according to a German regimental diary, there could never before in war have been a more perfect target than this solid wall of khaki men. There was only one possible order to give: fire until the barrels burst. By 6:15, despite heroic efforts, the first attack began to fizzle out. A second attempt, 3/4 of an hour later, was equally unsuccessful. So far, John Ripley's battalion had only been in a reserve role, but at 4 in the afternoon, they and the Cameron Highlanders were ordered to try again. It's said that in the next few minutes, the battalion made one of the finest assaults that it made during the course of the war. The companies advanced to the sound of the pipes. As soon as the men topped the breastworks, they were met by a terrific rifle and machine gun fire. The distance between the two front lines was no more than 300 yards, so it only took about 2 minutes to reach the German positions. The two Highland battalions managed to get into the German front line, and there they stayed until ordered to withdraw. During the course of the day's battle, the Black Watch lost 14 officers and 461 other ranks, killed, missing, or wounded. Total British casualties that day were 458 officers and 11,161 men. It was indeed a grim day. But what of Corporal Ripley's part? We can do no better than hear the words of the citation of his award, which reads, for most conspicuous bravery at Rue du Bois on the 9th of May 1915. When leading his section on the right of the right platoon in the assault, he was the first man of the battalion to ascend the enemy's parapet, and from there he directed those following him to the gaps in the German wire entanglements. He then led his section through a break in the parapet to a second line of trench, which had previously been decided upon as the final objective in this part of the line. In that position, Corporal Ripley, with 7 or 8 men, established himself, blocking both flanks and arranging a fire position until all his men had fallen and he himself had been badly wounded in the head. Told here in Keith's peaceful surroundings, despite the traffic, Corporal Ripley's story does not perhaps convey the reality of what he did. The vicious snap of rifle and machine gun bullets, the fizz of shrapnel, the noise of artillery fire, the proximity of the enemy, the ghastly smell of cordite, the cries of the wounded, the dreadful pain of his own head wound. These can only be vaguely imagined by all of us 100 years on.
Okay, well, no, everybody's important. I did some.
There has been a vivid picture already painted about the horrors that these men have gone through but I will not repeat them, but you now know the situation in which men who win at this VC cross. George Sellar. George Sellar was born in 1850 in Wellington Terrace, Fife Keith. He grew up in the town of Keith and was later working as a farm servant near Huntly. Later on, in 1869, he joined the army and enlisted in the 72nd Regiment. Now this regiment, in 1878, was engaged in the Second Anglo-Afghan War. In December of 1879, Private Sellar led an attack on the Asmai Heights outside Kabul. During that battle, George Sellar was severely wounded. However, his bravery had not gone unnoticed, and he was awarded the Victoria Cross for showing gallantry on the field.
Lieutenant Colonel Towns is representing the Queensland Highlander Association and therefore the Seaforth Highlanders.